Well, for more on that story, James Creedon is here with today's Media Watch. James,
Laura.
good to see you. And you've been looking at the ongoing reactions to what is happening in the United States. We saw, of course, more funerals for the victims today. We saw the suspect back in court. And, of course, Donald Trump, for the first time since it happened, is talking about gun control.
That's right. So the conversation is very much happening online. You've got hashtags such as gun control, gun control now, gun violence, where various people are putting up their comments mostly in favour of gun control. This is Bernice King, daughter of Martin Luther. My father was shot and killed. My paternal grandmother was shot and killed. Gun violence shatters lives and families. That's one of just many kind of, I suppose, well-known people or luminaries kind of chiming in on that debate. Nate Silver, he has been commenting on the trend of, this bucking trends, essentially. The conversation is being sustained. You have, as he says here, Parkland is not fading from the news the way that other mass shootings usually do.
Yes, people have normally moved on by now, haven't they?
That's right.
It's very sad to say, but it is true.
You can see that it's actually with several events being planned, and we'll get to that in a moment, in March and April, this conversation is going to be sustained even further.
Yes, and students have really kept the conversation going, haven't they? They've been on the media, they've been on Twitter, they've been responding directly to President Trump and to other Republican senators. It is still very much in the news, isn't it?
That's right, and I think in the past parents would have spoken out. So this is certainly a kind of a new feature. Christine Yared, 15 years of age, she explains her experience. This is an op-ed in the New York Times. She speaks about sprinting to her closet, and cramming herself against shelves filled with papers and binders. She thought at first it was a drill. Then, of course, she realised it wasn't. And then the kind of bizarre thing of hearing about your friends being mentioned and listed off in news bulletins, friends who have died. And she said, my friends, classmates are dead. I see the media portraying them as good children who were smart and kind, but they were more than that. My friend Gina is dead, etc., etc. And then she goes on later on in the piece to really make a very impassioned plea for some kind of gun control. So that's one very high-profile individual. This is, of course, Emma Gonzalez. I think the video has kind of gone on further there, but she, as you remember, made that impassioned speech over the weekend. It's beause, etc., with very, strong language. Yeah. She passionately vowed to change the law and said, we are going to be the last mass shooting. You also have Cameron. This is his Cameron Kasky. That's his Twitter account. He's been tweeting, retweeting, and getting a huge amount of coverage as well. This is the biggest issue in the country right now, he said, and we can't waste this chance. So they're very engaged, very present.
This feels very different. This feels very different to the aftermath of the Las Vegas shooting, doesn't it? I don't know. There just seems to be a lot more momentum here, doesn't there?
It seems to be the engagement of certain students and personalities as well. And there's a big. I think maybe this is a tipping point. We'll see. I mean,
people are hoping it is.
Right.
But it is still an extremely divisive issue in the United States.
Completely.
It's really hard for us to understand as Europeans, but a lot of people think
that's right. And
there shouldn't be any control on gun sales. I think
those in favour of the Second Amendment see moments like this as something that gun control advocates are going to use for political ends. Obviously, of course they are, but there's a sense that it's being used to grab the guns, so to speak. So certainly on both sides, it's really impassioned. Now, Cameron Kasky and others are promoting March for Our Lives. That's going to be on March 24th. It's got a website. It's extremely well organised. People sharing links so you can actually help fund it as well. And so that is just one of 3 marches and classroom walkouts being planned through the month of March and April. So there's really a huge amount of...
Has there been anything from the NRA, just to ask? Because they do have a Twitter account and they are at the centre of all of these discussions, obviously. Have they said anything since Wednesday?
Tweeted. I was going to show you that. They haven't tweeted in 5 days. It's extraordinary. They have said... I mean, maybe it's not extraordinary. It's probably perfectly predictable that they.
Well, they tweet regularly, don't they? So
they do, but certainly
what can they say, really?
And I think anything they say would be probably seized upon, so they're probably staying quiet. Now, the advocates. It's time. I'll just show you that very briefly. It's time to arm our teachers. This is also something that we're seeing on social media. Students for Trump. So that's one proposed solution. Probably not.
Less said about that, the better, I think.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.